Hello and welcome. This is Alexandra, and in this video I want to talk with you about self-sabotage. What is it? Why do we do it? And more importantly, how do we get out of it? And what is your pattern? Because when you become aware of your pattern, it is much easier to shift out of it, right? So let's talk about first, what is self-sabotage? Self-sabotage is really when part of our personality wants to achieve one thing and another part of our personality prevents us from doing so. And mostly self-sabotage happens subconsciously, so we are not aware of it. And unless we are, of course, aware of it, we can't change our pattern. So there's a certain conflict in our personality of one goal that we're trying to achieve, but then there's another goal that we're not even aware of that we can't shift somehow. In other words, self-sabotage is another word for shooting ourselves in our own foot. And it creates problems as it interferes with our success and it interferes with our happiness, right? Question is, why do we self-sabotage? Well, really, it's kind of a subconscious thing that the ego does. First of all, the ego doesn't want to change. I think we all know this, that the ego likes the constant. And if the ego is identified with one way of being, it doesn't want to change. But then our higher selves comes in, our cerebral cortex that says, but wait, I want to be different. I don't want to be Alex who is fat, let's say, but I want to be Alex who is taking care of herself. But subconsciously, the ego is still holding on to this idea of, oh, she's Alex, she's always been fat, so therefore we're going to hold on to that identity. So it's really an identity shift, and self-sabotage prevents us from shifting our identity that we so desperately need, though. So really there's fear involved in that, a lot of fear of change. And self-sabotage is kind of an avoidance pattern to change habits and avoid going through the hard work of changing patterns. It's avoiding facing the way we feel, because often when we take the self-sabotage out and we actually follow our dreams, there's a little hurdle that we have to jump across, and that hurdle is called destructive emotions that we may have been harboring in our bodies. And we may want to avoid thinking what we think about ourselves. So as long as something is in the subconscious, well, the mind can just keep running with it and we don't have to pay attention to it. But as soon as we set ourselves goals and we want to reach them and we start to unearth our self-sabotage pattern, they'll be like, oh my goodness, now I got to change and now I see myself. How scary is that? But needless to say, you are in the right place to unearth all of those self-sabotage patterns and get around them. So what are some common self-sabotage patterns? And I'm just listing some of them. I actually collected a real long list of students of mine that had identified certain self-sabotaging behaviors, and I was trying to find a pattern to them. And so I picked up 5 of them, and I'm sure there's more than that, but that's just what I picked up for now. So one of them is procrastination. So this idea of, I'll do it later. I guess I'll mañana, like the Spanish or the Mexican attitude of, I'll do it tomorrow. And we just sit back because, again, we're trying to avoid the hard work. We're trying to avoid looking at ourselves. And so it's just like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll watch this video tomorrow. Or I will do this worksheet tomorrow. I'll figure it out tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow never comes because all we have is the present moment. So one statement could be is, I procrastinate. Or another statement could be, I can do it later. Or, oh, this is just too much. I'll look at it tomorrow. Those would be some common language that you may be using to self-sabotage your success. Secondly, attitude. The biggest one for many of my students and clients is perfectionism. Could be because I'm a perfectionist, or I used to be one anyway. And as long as we think that if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all, that's a self-sabotaging behavior, because we can't be perfect from the get-go, can we? All Olympic athletes train for a long time to be perfect. All people who are in business, they're going about their business making lots of failures, and ultimately they will succeed. Another attitude could be impatience. Oh, if I don't show immediate progress, I won't do it at all. And again, that's an attitude of avoidance in a way. Another woman wrote, "Fuck this, I don't want to." That sounds like a rebel wrote that. Someone who is rebelling against another person's orders, and they're just like, I don't want to do this. Or they're rebelling against themselves, like, I don't want to do this, fuck this. And that's an attitude that we can choose to shift. Another attitude that's really destructive is been there, done that attitude. So thinking, oh, I've heard all of this before. I know I need to exercise. Oh, I know I need to meditate. Oh, I know I need to eat better. And then I don't do it. Instead, what's better would be to adopt a mindset of a beginner's mind. That's what all the spiritual teachers pretty much teach us. Have a beginner's mind all the time. Have the attitude of a student. Have the attitude of a bachelor, of the early years of our life, so that we allow the learning in. Then we got destructive priorities. Really, we can sabotage ourselves by not setting our priorities right. For example, always putting other people first and always putting ourselves last. And that's a very common one for many women. Always putting the husband and the kids first. The other destructive priorities, I don't have time. Well, I don't have time is really setting a priority that's not geared towards you. It's geared towards something else. Because as you imagine, like say you are very busy working at a desk and your kid comes running in and says, Mommy, please play with me. And you're like, well, honey, I don't have time. I'm working right now. I don't have time, you say. But in another instance, your kid comes running in, Mommy, I hurt myself. And there's all this blood running down the arm. All of a sudden, you do have time. So it's really about setting your right priorities. But the way we sabotage ourselves is by telling us, oh, I don't have time for this. When in essence, actually, you're probably going to gain time by self-care. You're probably going to gain time by filling your own bucket first. You're probably gaining a lot by just having fun in life and enjoying life. So setting your right priorities. Another destructive priority could be to tell yourself, I'm too tired. Or a destructive behavior could be, I eat to distract myself because I don't want to feel my emotions. So I could probably go on and on. And the last thing that I want to mention is spiritual bypassing. That's one where we say, well, everything's okay. Nothing's wrong with me. This is all okay. This is how it's supposed to be. And not really working on yourself or shifting something or shifting your communication or shifting your habits or shifting your actions because you're like, well, this is all okay. And I can remember an instance where I had an acquaintance in yoga school, and he was from the Bay Area, where there's a lot of spiritual people, and he kept saying, "Oh, it's all good. Oh, it's all good." To everything that happened or that someone said or that was done or not done, he was like, "Oh, it's all good." And I kept thinking to myself, "No, it's not all good. Like that doesn't work. What happened over here?" So that's kind of spiritual bypassing, to put a blanket on top of everything that's happening. Well, that's self-sabotaging your goals as well and not getting what you want. So how do we cure this? Well, there's many ways to cure it. Of course, simply knowing how you're self-sabotaging yourself, that's key, because if you're not aware, you can't change it. Once you're aware, you can. Reach out, don't freak out. That's I love that saying, because one of the things that I sometimes do is if I go into a destructive behavior or into avoidance tactics, I'm trying to just hold it in myself and trying to control myself. But instead, if I just reach out and actually voice it, share it with other people, and share it in the community that I'm held in. So you're held in this community now of Body Joy. If you reach out and don't freak out, you're probably going to get a lot of information back that points towards your destructive behaviors and patterns. The other very simple thing you can do is adjust your posture. So say one of your self-sabotaging behaviors is, or attitudes is, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of taking care of myself. I'm not worthy of doing this self-massage. I'm not worthy of feeding myself well. I'm not worthy because I'm not enough. Whatever that pattern and that racket is in your head, simply adjusting your posture, shoulders up and back, lifting your heart, and putting a smile on your face already makes you feel more worthy. Makes you more self-confident and more present. Sharing, that goes along the lines of the second thing that I talked about with reach out, don't freak out. But sharing with other people is really about bringing light and awareness to your patterns. And that in itself is golden like honey. And it is, other people see us so much more easily than we can see ourselves, because we are here inside ourselves, but other people can be above us. They see the macro view of us. They see us from the outside and then just observe us from the outside. And so they can give us reflection. They can give us, they can let us know, hey, this is how I see you. And that can bring a lot of light to the struggles that you're experiencing. And then the last thing is I want to say is take the opposite action. So say you are a perfectionist and you're always going for an A+. Well, maybe just taking an opposite action. I like the B- attitude, just bringing in that B- attitude over and over and over and over again. And that will counteract your perfectionistic tendencies in your mind. Or another option would be you don't feel worthy. You can bring in I am worthy. So you just keep repeating in your mind, I am worthy, I'm worthy, I'm worthy. And also ask other people who are supportive of you to tell you that you're worthy. So you bring in the opposite action, the opposite quality of what you don't have. And that's a very standard approach in medicine in general, Western medicine, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and so on, where we have one quality that's too much, then we have the other quality on the opposite side that we bring in to balance it out. And ultimately you will arrive at a balanced state. And it's almost like you need to fake it until you make it for a while and just really swing over to the other end. And that swing in itself is gonna what shifts you out of self-sabotage and into more constructive behavior and attitudes. So your action step after this, there is a worksheet somewhere around this video that says your why and your what. And number 4 here says it says, whatever it says, it's too small. I need unveil your pattern of self-sabotage. And so write down what your pattern of self-sabotage is, and so that you can be aware and prepared that when it shows up, you can then counteract it. And I can also be more aware, and the people in the group can be more aware of how you're sabotaging yourself, so we can call you out on it. So pull that out, fill it out. If you have no idea what your self-sabotaging pattern is, ask someone that you spend a lot of time with what they see in you, and pull out some of the ideas that I brought forth and see, hey, what is it? So for me, for example, it's clearly, or it used to be clearly, perfectionism. And it's probably still there, and I have to catch myself. At times it's gotten a lot better, but that is probably my biggest tendency, is perfectionism. So, and what is it for you? So pull out that worksheet and do it, and I will talk with you on the coaching calls. Bye.